Okay, it's 7:57 a.m. Um, whoa, what a night. Okay, so I was I was like really like happy last night, like sort of elated, and I felt good. You know, I took a shower and I felt I got like some new soap and stuff. I got Denali. It's from Old Spice. Yeah, I got that soap and I felt, I took a shower, I felt really good, and then I don't know, I felt like I was really talking to my mom a lot. Uh, you know, she passed away. I didn't even think about it because she passed away today, November 19th, in 2009. And I was overseas. I was overseas when it happened in Afghanistan. And I'm learning more and more about PTSD. I mean, I know that everyone kind of has an idea of what it is, but I seem to be experiencing it on another level to where I'm actually healing myself by understanding it, by realizing that certain dates, like certain dates for a reason why everyone's haunted by like 9/11 and everyone's haunted by you know, like April 20th, 420 is like Columbine, and it's also Hitler's birthday, and it's like certain dates. And it's like, even though it's another day on the timeline, like even though it's a different year, it's like our cellular memory is so powerful that things tend to repeat. Maybe things tend to repeat themselves, and it just shows up in a different way. But I mean, this isn't even what I wanted to talk about on here, but I'm going with it. Maybe it's got something to do with like not forgetting the past. Like, I'm not saying forget all about what happened on these special dates because they're uncomfortable. I think that looking at history and looking at these special dates where things just tend to happen on those dates, and saying, okay, well, where's the positivity in that? Like, what did we learn from this, and what have we grown? What has grown because of it? Like, yeah, we could look at 9/11 as one, and I'm not trying to be insensitive. I just mean, like, we could see it as one thing, but then it's like, so many people came together, and there was, I mean, I don't really know much about that situation, so I don't want to step on people's toes or nothing. I guess I'll just talk about my situation, about my mom passing away, on this date. And it's like, even in the midst of it, even in the midst of, like, uh, it happening, before she actually passed away, it was like, I literally was able to watch her systems collapse in the hospice before I went back overseas, from emergency leave. But it's like, it didn't matter to me what the picture looked like. My family was always like, before you go in there, you should know that she's got like a lot of machines hooked up to her, and she doesn't look the same. She's retaining a lot of fluid, and it looked like it was a difficult picture. And I was like, I understand. Like, I was very, very understanding, and the picture didn't shock me at all. She had edema, and it was like her whole body was full of fluids, and her face looked completely different because none of her muscles were working. She was like completely sedated on whatever drugs they had her on, and it was like, it didn't bother me. And I think the reason why it didn't bother me is because, when I was a kid growing up, I would keep a pair of socks by the bed, and it was because my mom would wake up in the middle of the night, and she'd like yell my name, and I would get up, put my socks on, put my shoes on, and we'd head to the ER. She had really, really bad asthma living here in Connecticut, and that's why we moved to Arizona at the time when I was 13. The doctor was like, "Look, you gotta move or you're gonna die." So that's basically why we moved out of Connecticut. But before that, it's like I would go into the ER. I was probably like, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. I don't really remember a whole lot. It's probably the reason why I don't remember much of my childhood. Maybe it was so many uncomfortable situations that I just can't. I can remember like bits and pieces and flashes of memory, but um, I would see her. I would be when you're a kid, things just look a little confusing, but you always see the person. You don't get caught up in the picture as much as a kid. I don't think. At least I didn't. And it's like I would walk to. They would show me where my mom was in the room, in one of the ER rooms, and she had like one of those throat breather things. They like shove a tube down your throat, and she was like totally awake and like trying to write stuff down to like give to me, to give to somebody so that somebody could pick me up and take care of me for like a little while. Like she was on life support systems, and it's like I could smell the medicine inside of her room, and I could smell it on her skin, and it's like I became so used to seeing difficult pictures that when I saw her in the hospice, it was almost like she was preparing me from the very beginning to she was preparing me for a very, very difficult situation. And I think that by by witnessing all of that as a kid, the situation became less concentrated on what the picture looked like, and then I could focus on what I felt from her instead of worrying about what the charts say, what the picture looks like, what people think. It was like I just knew that everything was okay. I knew that she was there, and I knew that she could hear me. And you know, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't like a little horrific or like scary or sad. I mean, of course it was, but I mean, had I not had all those reminders as a kid, I think it would have been way more difficult. When I think about what people go through, I think it would have been really difficult had I not already been prepared for something like that. It looked like it did every other middle of the night as a kid, so it was like, it's almost like I didn't even understand. I was like, oh, she's okay. um, and okay, so that's just like a backstory to that. But anyways, I was like feeling very happy last night, and I couldn't really sleep. But it wasn't like I was racing my mind or anything. I was just like so comfortable and happy with staying up. And then I realized like why every day is like so different for me, and why my time clock is so difficult. It's like I'm waking up with the sun. Now I'm not waking up with the sun. Now I can't sleep at night. Now I can't sleep at night. Now this food bothers me. This other food doesn't bother me, and what I'm realizing is that like the world and what we deal with on a worldly basis, like things like the Holocaust and like the atom bomb, it's like these things that are big traumatic experiences for us, like everybody. I mean, even if you weren't born in that era, you're reminded of it. You're reminded of it in films, and that cellular memory, whether you're a child or not, whether you live then or not, whether you know anything about it or not, is triggered. And it's like, maybe that's it. Is like all of these trigger memories, all of these cellular memories are being awoken. And I can't always speak for the whole world, but I know what I experienced personally, and I think I just realized that when I wake up, I try to think about, like, well, not think, but I'm like, what do I feel like? What does my heart feel like? Was there anything that I ate yesterday that was like a problem? And you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think about, if anything, if I feel like something weird, I'm like, okay, what did I do differently? And I didn't, it's like, my heart, when I woke up this morning, my heart was so excited. It was like I couldn't even breathe. I got up and I peed immediately, and then I felt a little better, and then it was like my mom was like, look outside, I'm trying to show you something. And I look in the sun, and it's like cute, like a beautiful day. It's totally clear and sunny, and it's amazing. And I like looked like at the sun, but like to the side of the sun, and it was like immediately I felt better about my heart. And she's like, why do you worry so much about what your heart feels like? And I was like, I don't know, maybe it's like a worldly fear about your heart, you know, about heart attacks and your heart problems, and you know, even kids are having heart attacks and all this. And she was like, well, where's the positivity, Teresa? What else does it feel like? And I'm like, well, it kind of feels like I'm overexcited. Like, you know, that feeling you get, like, if, like, you have to do I'm sorry, my speech. If you have to do an oral presentation and you're kind of nervous and it's like your heart's like, whoa, you know, you're kind of like freaking yourself out a little bit, but it's like that excitement. And I had so much excitement waking up. Whoa, waking up, that I thought it was a problem with my heart, but she's like, Teresa, she's like, do you know what day it is? And I was like, and then I came down here to make a video, and I looked at the, you know, the calendar thing on here, and I'm like, what? And she's like, you know, maybe it's not just your heart that's excited. Maybe my heart's excited. Maybe you're remembering that day right now, again, in a different light. And she's like, the fact that you wake up and you were so positive about it, that changes the whole system. It's like it changes that whole memory by acknowledging what you feel and realizing, well, maybe my system is perfectly fine. What am I remembering? Like, what's the memory? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, why do people have asthma? Why did my mom have asthma? When she moved to Arizona, she didn't have asthma, like, well, I'm not saying she didn't have it, but I don't think she had even one asthma attack. She ended up like, redlining, and she had a heart attack, and then, but she still stayed alive. She just redlined, and then, you know, she came to and all that. She ended up dying of like nothing. She ended up dying with like perfect blood work. She just passed away. And in that moment, I was, you know, it's like when I look at it now, I'm like, you know, it's interesting. The doctor says, look, if you don't move, you're going to die because of whatever was in the system here in Connecticut, you know, like mold spores or too much humidity or something, right? So she's like, all right. She moves to Arizona. No asthma attacks. What did she end up? Well, I mean, she didn't die of a heart attack, but it's like, maybe this is what rebirth feels like. You know, maybe this is what death feels like. You know, whatever the picture looks like on the other side, what we see, maybe this is what my mom experienced, you know? Maybe your heart is so exalted, it's so excited to be in another dimension or realm that it feels like a heart attack. And maybe people in that past dimension, that other vibration, are looking at you pass away. I mean, maybe I'm reborn or something. Like, it just seemed like such an extreme feeling. But as soon as I remember my mom, I looked at the sun, I was like, wow, what an amazing day. And then I realized what day it was. I was like, holy cow. We are literally remembering things. Sometimes I wonder if it's even, I mean, yes, you could look in a microscope or a telescope and you can see a problem in the cosmos or a problem in a system, but maybe it's just a frequency. It's a memory frequency. Maybe it's just a different frequency, and it feels really extreme, and we think we're having a heart attack. And people that have a heart attack and pass on, maybe they're just ascending into the next dimensional realm. I mean, the weather changes so easily. It's like, it's hot, it's freezing cold. It's 6 feet of snow in Buffalo. It's like bright and sunny and amazing out right now. And I'm only like 4 or 5 hours away from that location. You know, there's something about cellular memory that happens on a worldly scale and also happens personally. So I guess the main message in this video, and I know I jumped around a lot, but I think what it is that if your system is having a problem, if you feel something really intense, look at the date. Try to remember what happened last year, or the year before that, or even something around that time frame. Because PTSD happens to everybody. The level of which, I don't think it matters. The the situation, I mean, whether you're in a war zone, like, I was deployed 3 times, or whether you lost your mother and it was really traumatic, or, there's a million different things that can happen to somebody. And if you didn't experience it, what if it was somebody else in the past? And maybe, they're related to you and you're feeling their cellular memory. I mean, you never know. You could be feeling the world's situation. You could be feeling your own situation. Maybe it's so intense for me because, November 19th, 11/19, that's backwards. That's 9/11. It's an emergency. I mean, you never know. It could be a lot of things all at once that I'm experiencing on this day. Even though it's not September 11th, it's still an emergency. You know what I mean? Like, it's numbers, but it also has a symbological. It also has like a meaning behind it. So I guess all I'm saying is that if you ever feel like there's something wrong with your system, try to remember that cellular memory is very powerful. Because even though I felt really upset, but then I flipped it to a positive feeling, I immediately felt better. My heart feels totally better. I don't even feel the same way as I did 10 minutes ago. I feel great. I think that's the difference. It's like you're not replacing the cellular memory, you're just realizing it's always there, but it never had to be negative. It never had to be scary. It just felt uncomfortable. Okay. Well, I guess that's all. The coffee has brewed. Alright. Thanks for watching.